From the National Catholic Register, this is Register Radio, bringing light and clarity to the news and topics that affect your life.
This week on Register Radio, we'll talk with EWTN's President and CEO Michael Warsaw about the one-year anniversary of the Register joining the EWTN family. And in breaking news, we'll also talk with Michael about the impact of the HHS Mandate on EWTN. In our second half, Dan Burke will talk with Register journalist Thomas McDonald about his recent article on the Susan G. Komen Foundation, along with the recent flip-flops after some pressure from Planned Parenthood. Welcome again to Register Radio. It's a co-production of EWTN and the National Catholic Register. I'm Tom Price, along with Dan Burke, Executive Director of the Register.
It's great to be with you, Tom.
Always a pleasure, my friend. And Dan, today we're delighted to bring on a very busy man, our own Michael Warsaw, the President and CEO of EWTN. Welcome again to the show, Michael. And first of all, the good news. Congratulations on the one-year anniversary of the Register with EWTN.
Well, thanks, Tom. It's been a great year. Bringing the Register into the EWTN family has brought, many blessings to EWTN and hopefully many blessings to the Register family as well. All signs are pointing upward for the Register. Subscriptions grew last year by nearly 15%. That's a remarkable milestone for a print publication in this day and age. I was joking with someone recently that we have to be the only newspaper in existence that actually had a growth in our subscriber numbers. Thanks be to God, that's a great thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, another great area of impact is that we had 10 million page views on our website this past year, which is about double the prior year, about 4 minutes average time people reading each of those pages.
Wow.
So that is a lot of time of Catholics absorbing faithful news content.
That's terrific. And I think as regular readers of the print publication and the online side know, we've certainly put more emphasis and more resources into the editorial side of what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether it's delivered through print or online or mobile device. It's about the content. It's about the reporting. And so I'm really pleased with some of the directions we've moved in. We've got some exciting things to come in the months ahead. And, I think we're very, very happy and excited that the Register has been part of the family for a year now, and we look forward to continuing the relationship going forward.
Michael, I know that in your position, you speak with church leaders practically every day. Can you tell us what they're saying to you about the acquisition of the Register?
It's been very heartening to me to hear from people at all levels of the church, cardinals, bishops, lay leaders within the church, how grateful they are for EWTN having stepped in and rescued the Register, and our work allowing the Register to continue and to grow and to be the publication of record for the church in America. And, universally, I've heard their support of what we're doing and their appreciation for the content that we offer. I recently had the chance to be at a gathering of about 500 key Catholic leaders from around the country, and over the course of a weekend, in a number of presentations, there was almost no presenter who stood up who at some point or another didn't reference either the Register or EWTN in some form or another. So I think the impact that the Register is able to have on the church today and informing people about issues of the day is tremendous, and it's growing, and all of that is a great, great blessing, I hope, for the church, and is great for us to be involved in.
Sure. Obviously, it's the reason why we do this radio show, is to highlight the strengths of the Register and how we can work together to bring the news that people really need to hear. Exactly.
And, and I think it's important that we remember that within the Catholic context, within our approach to news, there's a catechetical dimension to reporting news. I think if you do it the way that we do it, you can help really share with people what it is that the church teaches and to help them grow in their faith and their understanding of their faith. And so I think the Register brings a new component to that, and it's been great to have as part of the EWTN family.
Speaking here with EWTN's President and CEO Michael Warsaw. Michael, there is an urgent matter at hand that we wanted to cover while we have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening with this HHS mandate? It's certainly all over the news, and now how it's going to impact us here at EWTN.
Right. Well, certainly back on January 20th, the Department of Health and Human Services, through Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, imposed a mandate upon all religious institutions with regard to certain coverages under the Obama health care plan. And what this has done is really force EWTN and other faith-based organizations, Catholic and non-Catholic, into a position where we are being required to, first of all, inform our employees who are covered under our health plan about access to contraception, sterilization, and abortifacient drugs, abortion-inducing drugs, ultimately where we will have to pay for those services and procedures under our health care plan. If we choose not to do that, because those are indeed a violation of our conscience, they're obviously procedures that Catholics consider to be illicit and immoral, we can't go along with that. Well, if we choose to provide a plan that doesn't cover those or to not provide health insurance to our employees, then the government will step in and fine us some $600,000 in the first year in the case of EWTN, and increasing fines over the coming years. So it's really put EWTN in a position where we had no choice but to seek relief from the courts. And so for the first time in our 30-year history, we chose to file a lawsuit against the government in U.S. District Court here in Birmingham on Thursday, February 9th. And we did so asking the court to really review this and to do so on constitutional grounds, that what the government has done is really to force EWTN to say certain things that are contrary to our beliefs, and that is coercion, it's forced speech, it's a violation of our First Amendment rights as individuals and as an organization, and it also is an interference in our right to religious liberty and freedom of religion. So we're asking the federal courts to intervene and to stop this unjust mandate that's been imposed upon us and the faith-based community, and really beyond the faith-based community. It's also an issue that individual business owners who are Catholic or people of other faiths who have these same convictions, they're being forced to act contrary to their conscience on these things and to provide these same sort of services. So we believe that it was a moment when EWTN had to step up as a Catholic entity and say enough is enough, and we need to put an end to this and ask the courts to do so. What we're seeing now is over the last 48 hours of this, as the president and the administration is really been impacted by the public outcry of this and the great leadership of our bishops around the country. So,
Yes.
By last count, some 160 bishops who issued statements directing their priests to talk about this with their people. Cardinal designate Dolan of New York, who, as the president of the Conference of Bishops in the U.S., has been really tremendous in pushing this issue. The administration seems to be trying to come up with a compromise, but I think our concern is that we can't compromise our mission. We can't compromise our beliefs. There are some, I think, in the administration who think that it's easy to compromise away these things. No, we'll just work it out. And I think they just don't seem to understand we can't compromise on our values. We can't compromise on our moral principles. And so I think we have to wait and see, of course, what the president and the administration proposes as an accommodation to the faith-based community.
Sure.
But I'm very, very skeptical, particularly given this administration's history of flip-flopping and breaking its promises to the faith-based community. Cardinal Dolan, even in the last several days, in secular media outlets, addressed this issue where he had certain assurances in November from the president about this issue, and that in the end, the president broke his promises. The president did not live up to his word on what he had promised Cardinal Dolan in their prior meetings. So I think those of us within the Catholic community who are watching this very closely and who are impacted by this very closely have to see what it is that the administration might propose as an accommodation and determine whether or not that's acceptable, or whether that's just simply shuffling the deck chairs and offering something that really doesn't address the core issue here.
I was struck by two things in the press release where you were quoted as saying a few things. One is, I'm so glad that you used the term abortion-inducing rather than the kind of insider term abortifacient, which might lose some people, and we certainly want to be as clear as possible. So I'm so glad that you did that. But the other thing that I noticed was the legal term forced speech, which is really a lot about what this is all about.
Exactly. I think the administration and certainly the Department of Health and Human Services has really been saying this is about contraception, this is about access to health care services for women. Well, in fact, the spokesperson for Secretary Sebelius took me on in some of my comments yesterday, which I take as an affirmation that we're doing the right thing. In saying, well, these aren't abortion procedures. This is contraception. Well, the administration and HHS wants everyone to think that this is just contraception. It's not. This also includes abortion-inducing drugs, and they cannot get away with that by trying to lump it all into what they think is a cleaner term of contraceptives. So that's a problem, and that precisely leads to the constitutional issues of forced speech. Mm-hmm. By mandating that this August EWTN, on EWTN's letterhead, will have to tell our employees where they can get access to contraception, sterilization, and abortion-inducing drugs. The government is intruding into our organization and forcing us to say things that are contrary to our values. That is completely and totally contrary to our First Amendment right to free speech, and that's the basis of our lawsuit against the administration on this issue.
Yeah, going to what you're saying there, I know that Cardinal Wuerl appeared today on one of the secular news programs, and he said at one point, well, this would be like the government coming to you, your news organization, and saying, well, on Wednesdays and Fridays, we want you to report these stories. And, of course, the news people were just totally, dumbfounded. They didn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's true. That's precisely what the government is doing. And, I think in the attempts to reach some sort of a politically expedient solution on this, because I think the administration feels the pressure and understands that it's overreached on this and has really alienated large segments of the faith community, not just Catholics, but across the spectrum. I think they're at least floating all sorts of proposals about how mm-hmm. they can avoid having the religious employers have to do these notifications right. and so forth. But at the end of the day, if the administration is forcing us either directly or through a surrogate like our insurance administrators or insurance companies mm-hmm. To communicate this, it still leaves us at the same place. If the administration at the end of the day is still saying, well, you're still going to have to pay for these things even if you don't have to communicate them directly, that's still not acceptable. So there's certainly at this point, pending some very surprising sort of announcement from the administration in the coming hours or days, there is no indication in anything that we're seeing and that's been floated so far that would lead us to believe that we would not do anything other than to pursue the suit and see that to its end. Right. And I think for people who are listening, people need to be very, very aware of this. They need to be very careful as they read this or as they read any language and suggested accommodations that come out, mm-hmm. And not to buy into spin or deliberate obfuscation and confusion of the issues that might go on. At the end of the day, if these mandates still require employers to give this sort of notice to employees, if at the end of the day they still require employers to pay for these procedures under their health care plans, nothing has changed. And we're really skeptical that anything other than the full and complete withdrawal of this mandate is really probably the only real thing that can happen here that will satisfy the needs of the faith community, and particularly the Catholic community.
Understood. Michael, how can our listeners support EWTN in this effort?
There's several things they can do. One, pray and fast. First and foremost, we need prayer. Secondly, while the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty, great group, is supporting us and representing us on a pro bono basis, EWTN is certainly coming under attack from many different quarters about this, and so I would certainly encourage our audience to continue your support, your financial support of the work of EWTN. Now more than ever, the mission of EWTN is essential, and so we need that support to continue what we do. And if people are interested in doing so, they can also go to the EWTN.com website, and there's a link there off the homepage to the HHS Mandate issue. Through that, they can go to the Becket Fund website, and there's an online petition there that they can choose to sign on to and help communicate the views of the Catholic community and the community of believers at large to the administration that this mandate can't stand and it needs to be withdrawn.
Well, we certainly want to remind everyone, please keep all of us, the EWTN family, in your prayers as we fight this battle for our organization and on behalf of many others in the church who will fall prey to this legislation. Michael, personally speaking, I have always been very proud of EWTN, my association with the network, and all that we do, but never more than today.
Thank you, Tom.
When we return, Dan Burke and Thomas McDonald bring us up to date on the Susan B. Komen Foundation and Planned Parenthood. It's not pretty.